Dear students, welcome back. It has been a long time since our last video, and you are all very happy to have more, or perhaps you're very sad because you like not having homework videos. Either way, all good things must come to an end, or all bad things too. Same thing with Rome. They eventually come to an end, but today we're talking about the beginnings of Rome. Now, the beginning of Rome, according to legend, is we have two twins. And we have a princess that gives birth to these two twins, whose father was Mars, who is the Roman god of war. Now, the uncle I guess it would be great uncle, of these boys is afraid that they will come and rule and take over his position because he is king, and he orders the men to drown them in the river Tiber. So the Tiber River is where they are sent to die. Now, luckily, before they are drowned, a wolf, and the wolf you can see here, a wolf comes and rescues the boys and raises them. Now, the boys, after they grow up, decide to build a city upon the banks of the Tiber River where they are rescued. And alas, the boys, as boys tend to do, were quarreling, they were fighting, and Romulus kills his brother. And he names the city that he founded Rome after himself. Now, of course, all of this is not true, it is simply a myth, but it does establish two things: A, a city, which is a historical truth, and B, the location upon the river Tiber. Now, Rome is located in what is today Italy, and if you look here, Italy is in the middle, Rome is in the middle of the Italian peninsula. And along this river called Tiber, you have what's known as the 7 Hills of Rome. And that is what the city is built upon. So you can see on the map on the right, these are the famous 7 Hills of Rome. Now, the people that settled Rome historically were not all grown up or raised by wolves. Initially, we have a group called the Latins, and they invaded Italy around 1000 BCE and took over this area that today is known as Rome. Now, eventually, as the city and location grew, and we'll look later in the week at what elements of the landscape helped, there's a group called, over here, the Etruscans, and the Etruscans became wildly influential, and the Etruscans mostly were in the north, but eventually came down into this area where we see today Rome. So by about 600 BC, the Etruscans, if you look at this map, this is northern Italy. The Etruscans control most of the north and central of the peninsula. Now, when it comes to Rome, there are a great many influences upon it. So, namely, the largest empire in the region, the Greeks, were the most influential when it came to how Rome itself developed. And when it comes to a variety of areas, Greece's influence can be seen very well. Not only right here, this is architecture. The Romans adopted the arch and used these arches to build, as we've seen, the Colosseum, but quite massive structures, both in height as well as length. And it allows the Romans to build up more so than any other society. They also develop, or at least borrow, a system. This one mostly the Etruscans are developing, but they have a system called the cuniculus. And the cuniculus is an underground trench, and the Romans are able to use this to irrigate fields. They also can drain swamps to have more farmland, and they can also bring water into cities. So it allows flowing of water both from land they want to remove it from, as well as into places that they need water. Also, we have sports. Etruscans passed down a great love of sports, and one of the main ones we've looked at already is this idea of gladiators. And they had slaves fighting that the Etruscans had and the Romans adopted and embraced readily. The other idea is this chariot race. So you have men behind a number of horses on a wheeled cart, and they are raced to victory. Granted, if you fall off of it, you will probably be trampled to death, which is definitely a bummer. But people love it because it's exciting. That's probably why we like NASCAR today. There's always the chance of death. Writing, the Romans developed, you can see here, a pretty complex written language, and they borrowed a lot from the Greek alphabet as well as the Etruscan alphabet. We also have the Roman numerals that are still in use today. You can see them in lots of buildings and in the Super Bowl. So the Romans not only just took the written language from the Greeks and adapted it, but they also were greatly influenced when it came to their writing as well. And we'll get more into that in about 2 weeks. Artwork, the Greeks similarly were probably the most influential of all of the artistic creators in the Mediterranean. The Romans very much got ideas from Greek artwork as well as the Etruscans, who stole from the Greeks as well. Pottery was one of the big pieces that both practically it's useful, you get to carry water and food and other items, but also for artistic-wise, they're easily to be decorated. Right here you see a mosaic, which is pretty detailed mosaic, many, many tiles. And often the fact that the Romans took so much influence from the Greeks, you see artwork today as being described as Greco-Roman. And because so many of the qualities are shared between the two, the name now is sharing the two locations. Religion, we will be getting into a great deal of more so Christianity for the Romans, but the original Roman religion is very much borrowed from the Greeks. In many cases, the gods are exactly the same, apart from a simple name change. So, when it comes to Roman religion, you have essentially the same group of gods as Greek religion. Certainly, they do have a number of their own, not to say they stole everything, but very much you can point to the Greeks as to where this religion came from.